Hi, I'm Karen Eckmeier from the Quilted Lizard Fiber Art Studio. Normally, I make curves on quilts. Today, I'm going to show you how I made curves on a 6 Gore skirt. Every time I wear this skirt, I get so many compliments and then questions. Whose pattern is it? How do you do those curves? So today, I'm going to show you how to add those curves to this skirt. The instructions actually start out. They are a free download from sewingmamas.com. The name of the skirt, when you're looking for it, is 6 Gore Skirt Sew Along, How to Draft and Sew a 6 Gore Skirt with French Seams. This is the pattern piece that I drafted based on my measurements. I wanted a knee-length skirt, so that's the length that I'm using here. Normally, you could do all 6 gores the same fabric and it would be beautiful, but I decided that I wanted to have 2 fabrics in mind and I would separate it with the curve. Okay, so the fabric requirements for this, I have 12 1/4 yard cuts, a 1/4 yard being 9 inches by the selvage, which is about 44 inches. That's a small size. If you're a little larger, I would recommend getting a 1/2 yard each of 12 different fabrics. And I have them alternating. I have dark, light, dark, light. In the skirt I'm wearing this morning, I have turquoise, lime, turquoise, lime. You want an alternating pattern. When you select your thread, make sure it's a thread that either contrasts or complements your fabrics, because we are going to be top stitching and that thread will show. So let's move on over to actually cutting the curves and ironing them. Now it's time to cut our curve. I normally use a rotary cutter and just free form cut a curve down there. If that's a little scary for you, which it is for a lot of people, I found this in a drafting section of an office supply store. It's a flexible bend ruler, and I could create a curve, any curve I want to with this. Let's see what we might want to do here. And I could use that as my guideline. I could just draw that curve, okay? If you don't have one of those rulers, you might have a piece of yarn. I could do the same thing. I can create a fun curve this way, like so. And then I could follow that line with either just cutting or drawing it. But since I like to do freeform, let's just cut that curve. Very gentle curve. Notice I'm cutting the curve on the darker fabric. Each time I do my gore, I will always put the dark fabric onto the light fabric. The next step is that I'm going to iron about a 1/4 inch to the back with the iron on this piece. Okay, using your index finger and thumb, I kind of pinch part of the fabric and I follow with the iron. Hopefully my hand will get out of the way so you can see what I'm doing. I'm creating about a 1/4 inch fold over here, just pressing it over. There isn't any need to clip these curves, they're very gentle. And so here we've done that. We've just ironed the fabric toward the wrong side. Okay, I have my curve that's been ironed, and I'm going to put it on top of the other fabric, just overlapping that edge. Right sides are up. Before I pin, I want to take my pattern piece and just make sure I'm going to have the width I need, and I try to make sure that it's centered in the top and the bottom. Also, before I pin, I want to peek underneath at the lowest curve here. I want to make sure I have at least 1 inch there, because I need to be able to turn that fabric under later. So I would go ahead and I'm going to pin this fabric, and I'm going to pin it just enough so that I can take it over to the sewing machine and top stitch it. Okay, I've done my top stitching, and you'll notice I have 2 different fabrics. I did my top stitching. I top stitched about 1/8 of an inch from the edge because I like the little pleat that creates. You can stitch on the edge too, that's fine. So it's top stitched. Now we're going to turn it over, and I can only cut in this direction, so I'm going to turn it around. I am going to cut 3/4 of an inch from that line of stitching. I'm going to do that nice and carefully. So about 3/4 of an inch. That's a little close there. Okay, now we're going to press that under with the iron. Okay, now we're ready to iron this raw edge here. I'm going to iron it under like that so we don't have any raw edge exposed on the inside of our skirt. So we're just kind of tucking that under. Again, the curves are gentle enough that I don't need to do any clipping. So I'm just trying to make this look nice here. Just take your time doing that. Just move right along. Okay. Now, we need to stitch along here, and that line of stitching will show on the front side. So again, you want the same fabric that you have in your top to be in your bobbin, and I'm going to stitch right along that edge there, and I have one that's already been stitched here to show you that. And here's what it looks like on the back. So stitched, and sometimes I vary where I've, it's not exactly the same distance. That's okay. I kind of think that adds to the energy there. And then it looks like this on the front. And then our next and last stop for each gore is that you're going to take your pattern piece and you're going to center it on there. There's a center in the bottom, center in the top. And I just barely had enough there width-wise, and I will trace around there and cut it so that I have 6 pieces like this, and then I assemble my skirt. It has a simple elastic band, and then you are just ready to twirl. Thanks for watching.